is an exclusive presentation of BYU Athletics in association with BYU Broadcasting. It's time to talk BYU football. You're tuned into the Coordinator's Corner, live from JCW's in Provo, giving you the inside scoop on BYU football from the coaches themselves, JCW's, the Burger Boys. To lead things off, let's head live to your host, the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
Good afternoon, Cougar football fans. Welcome inside JCW's here in Provo for another edition of the Coordinator's Corner. Mondays, 12 to 1, two of BYU's three coordinators join me, and this week it's defense in the first half hour, offense in the second half hour. Coach Tuiaki from 12 to 12:30, and Coach Ty Detmer from 12:30 to 1. And so it is. We welcome back in BYU's defensive coordinator and D-line coach, Tuiaki. Good to see you again.
Good to be here again.
I know these are tough weeks to have to break it down week to week when you're not getting the results you want, and BYU suffers a seventh straight loss this past week at ECU. What didn't go according to plan that you thought you had kind of worked up for a positive result going in?
You know, after the game, you know, there's a lot of bad feelings and just feeling like we're not adequate at certain spots, and you come back and you evaluate film, and it isn't the case. And you know, I watched the film on the plane coming back, and I talked to Coach Lamb, and I was like, you know what, we played well. They were good offense. They executed in certain spots, and we missed opportunities in certain spots. And so, you know, and you don't want to say that when you're 1-7. We played well because, you know, the bottom line is we lost. But I thought there were a lot of good things. But we've got to capitalize on opportunities to take the ball away, opportunities to sack the quarterback, and those big misses, you know, to finish the sack and finish the takeaway is, I think, really the story for us on defense. Is just we could have been out of drives. You know, we could have kept them out of field goal in certain places. But, you know, you look at the punt team did a really good job putting us in good field position, and we end up giving one big play to put them in field goal range. And other than that, you're playing pretty solid defense and kind of going back and forth. But that was the case all night. There was one point where they went 3 field goals in a row, and it was just, you know, a big play here, a big play there, a big play there that put them in good field position, and we kind of came up and stopped them and forced field goals, but just wasn't enough on the night. I think if we would have completed those sacks and completed the takeaways, it would have been a much different outcome.
So you think, taken on the whole, you should have gotten more out of the game than you got?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's so many good reps on there, you know, by individuals and a lot of good play, but just as a whole, we needed more takeaways, and we needed more, you know, big plays, which are sacks that we missed that ended up turning into a quarterback scrambling and creating a big play. We take away a big play as well as get one on our own if we get that sack, you know, and so our players see it. We met today as a defense and went over that and watched all the big plays and all the opportunities and you know, just miscues that we had, and they're all things that we can fix. We've just got to get everybody doing the things that they need to be doing all on the same page at the same time.
ECU wins at 33-17. You got one takeaway on the night, and it came in one of the first few plays of the game. Zane Anderson on the strip. I think Pulsifer has the fumble recovery. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then a few plays later, you're in the end zone. So good defense, good offense, 7-0, and things began the way you wanted them to.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, we've got to come out fast, and then we just got to continue it. You know, it's I think right now too. You know, there's a little uncertainty, just the feelings on the sideline, the players, and we got to come out and just play. We got to come out and just, you know, create our own destiny, and it just seems like there's a lot of kind of waiting and not this again, you know, type deal going on the sideline. We just got to make plays.
You would think that urgency would naturally create just aggressiveness, but sometimes the urgency creates, as you mentioned just a moment ago, uncertainty, and maybe whether it's offense, defense, or special teams, if there's any kind of a passive approach, it tends to hurt you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've talked about that as a staff as well. You know, I think right now is the time where you really want to see all phases get aggressive. I know Coach Tuiaki talked to us about it as a staff, and you know, and that's what we want to do. But at the same time, being aggressive is not, you know, being reckless. And you know, as a defense, we got to make sure that we're taking the appropriate risks, and we're you know, we're making them earn it. And you know, we talk about it this morning as a defense. You know, people aren't ripping off long runs against us. You know, they're completing challenged, you know, contested balls down the field. which basically they're beating you down the field. And so we've got to do a good job as coaching staff changing things up and putting the kids in different situations, maybe give them a little bit of success at what we're asking them to do, but also just still play sound. Don't. We talked as a staff. Okay, we're going to start blitzing more. We're going to start doing more man blitzes, peel blitzes. We're going to start doing. And I've been in defenses that I've done in the past, and it's high risk, high reward. With us being stout or with us being sound right now, I just hate to be in a defense where you end up giving a slant for 90 yards, and that's what happens when you're being that type of aggressive, which is fine. It's aggressive, but like I said, I want to be aggressive but not reckless, and make people earn it still.
Yeah, back to ECU for a couple of things. The first series they had ends with the turnover. You guys score. Next series, they make one big play that kind of changes the early feel of the game, and that big play was reviewed for a long time. It turns out that they rule that the receiver makes a catch and steps out before he ends up stretching the ball to the plane, and we knock it out, get the ball back, think you've got the ball recovered. Instead, it goes back, and the review finds he steps out on the sideline. That one review kind of changed an early tone where it was kind of going your way.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's one of the plays that I was talking about. It should have been a sack, but the quarterback ends up keeping himself alive, and it's a broken play, which is always hard for a corner to cover. I mean, when you're talking about a broken play, it's not a structured route, right? So you're just kind of covering somebody who's playing backyard football, and it's real difficult. And so we've got to get the quarterback down in that point so that we're not he's not running around and throwing it, but also as a corner, he still should make the play because the ball was up there for a second. He just kind of lost it and ended up being a bad deal in that drive.
On the pass play itself, who had the cover? Was it Dian on the sideline and then Mike going over?
Dian on the sideline. I think it was Zane coming over.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and big completion on the review. They end up scoring a few plays later. Later in the game, Troy Warner goes down in the end zone. As I recall, was kind of away from the play. What happened to him? I know he's gone for, looks like maybe a long time, and he's out now.
Yeah, just one of those freak deals. Just I think his foot got rolled up or just stepped the wrong way, and just it ended him for the night. So I haven't heard back on exactly what's going to be happening with him.
Yeah, my guess is he's going to be, at least the indication I think from Kalani and or the players this morning was he might be gone for a while. But we don't talk a lot about injuries, but that would be just the latest guy, and again, the refrain is next man up. But bottom line is you've had really important players miss a lot of time for you this year.
Yeah, we have. You start to look down your depth chart and you're just like, okay, the questions about moving certain players certain places, and guys playing out of position, moving a couple of safeties to play corners is one of the things we talk about, because we're really, really thin at corner now. And so we'll just have to see. We'll just have to meet and talk about it and come up with a plan and come up with something that will give our kids the best shot to win.
Who do you think will start opposite Dian this week against San Jose State?
Chris will for now. But behind him, you've got Mike Shelton and Travion, who both are backups for a reason right now. They've got to earn their way on and show a little consistency in the way that they play.
You don't want to go a whole lot deeper than the 4 right now. You're kind of down to your 4, aren't you? Who else would be able to play?
I'm gonna have to pull a couple of guys over that have been helping out with the scout team, and guys that play, that travel. Like Hiva Lee plays on special teams and is a corner for us, and is a walk-on corner, does a really good job, but he's going to have to come in and take some snaps off of us as well.
Bottom line is you hope that the 2 deep at either corner stays healthy and plays well for you for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
That has to happen.
Yep.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more with Coach Tuiaki as we look back on the ECU game and ahead to San Jose State. A couple of 1-7 teams going head-to-head Saturday. If you'd like to contribute a question for Coach Tuiaki or Coach Detmer next half hour, #CCBYU, #CCBYU on Twitter. The Coordinator's Corner continues from JCW's in Provo right after this.
Hey, that's good. Whoa, Dave. Sorry.
he's played.
Yeah,
He's played
yeah, no, I know he's
in
been
a
playing
lot
a
of
lot. Yeah,
games.
yeah. He's
You
used both
know,
guys. He had 4 touchdown passes coming into the game.
I mean, the two touchdown passes that he threw. I mean, he threw two, right?
Oh
Remember
no,
correctly.
first guy threw.
Yeah, no, I think the back.
Corner, live on the New Skin BYU Sports Network. Let's head back to JCW's in Provo and the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
All right, so back here at JCW, segment 2 of the show. Defense first half hour, offense second half hour. Ty Detmer here at 12:30. Coach Tuiaki with us till the bottom of the hour. Coach Tuiaki, BYU's DC and D lineman coach. And ECU defeats BYU 33-17 this past Saturday in Greenville. We mentioned it a little bit in the first segment, but they got to the 25-yard line or inside 4 times that resulted in field goals all 4 times. So they did score a little bit, get into the end zone, but that said, they were driving deep, and has been kind of your strength. You tend to stiffen a little bit and force them to settle for 3.
Yeah, I think the kids have done a really good job, you know, knowing and playing tactical football. We get in there, just play into the situation and keeping them out. And so it's kudos to them for that. But we've got like I said, a couple of plays, big plays that put them into the red zone that we've got to make sure that we tighten up so that we keep them out, force them to punt.
Following up on that, as a result, BYU has some defensive numbers that are good enough to win some games. You're middle of the pack nationally in scoring defense, red zone, 59th, but 29th when it comes to red zone touchdown percentage. So that carries on with the theme. Teams can get in a position to score, but you're good at keeping them from out of the end zone, and that's a positive.
Right. Big positive drawn. You know, kids are playing. That's normal when you tighten up your defense and play a lot more aggressive. And we haven't really blitzed much in the red zone. It's really just guys doing their job, and I think probably feeling comfortable in the defense that we're in the red zone.
BYU's top half nationally and well in defensive yards per play, and you want to stay certainly in that neck of the woods. There are some stats that show where you have things to work on, and they're mostly disruption stats, right? You're 120th in tackles for loss per game, 120th in sacks per game, 97th in passes defended per game, and 87th in turnovers gained, and those are all relatively, those all contribute to the disruption numbers you want to see game in, game out.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to. We talked about this way back, but we've got to sync our pass rush and our coverage, you know. And so, if you're going to play really aggressive man coverage, then you have to really disrupt the timing of the route so that the D-line can get there, and then also the D-line just got to get there.
So we talk about being more aggressive, but you said earlier, yes and no. And if you're not synced, even being more aggressive might go the other way against you, right?
Yeah. I think there's a balance there that you have to keep, and just depending on situation, depending on player personnel, and just things that you're doing, even the people that you're facing. You know, there's a lot of things that you take into account with taking those risks.
What does San Jose show you then in terms of an offensive game plan with which you can work and do what you want to do defensively?
They're very similar to what we just faced schematically. You know, I think what ECU had better. They had better timing with their quarterback and their receivers, and so you know. San Jose has gone back from I think a more seasoned quarterback to starting a freshman, and so I think that they're trying to move along and just kind of get reps to their young guy, the guy that they think is going to be their future. But he, you can tell, is still kind of staring routes down and waiting for somebody to get open. Doesn't feel completely confident yet about throwing people open, and so I think their timing is probably the one thing that is going against them, and so we've got to take advantage of that. And you know, O-line wise, I think that we can get after them as well with the D-line, and like we were talking about, some of the risks that we're talking about taking and changes making on defense, not being too different, but change a couple of things to get after the quarterback a little bit more.
Like ECU, San Jose is a 2-quarterback team. You talked about how they've gone back to the freshman. And ECU's starting quarterback did leave the game injured Saturday in Greenville. The backup who came in had been playing a lot and played well, made some nice plays for him.
Yeah, he did. He threw a couple of nice balls that those guys made plays on. I think it was more the receiver. The receivers were really good. The receivers were good players. And
you knew that going in.
Yeah. And, you know, they have a receiver that's leading their conference in receiving yards, and I don't know where he's with touchdowns, but just a really good player. We were talking about how wouldn't be surprised if he's playing on Sundays. He's just a really phenomenal ball skills. But I think that those receivers are a little bit better than the ones we're going to face, but these guys can run. There's a couple of them that are pretty fast, that have caught some deep balls on film, the film that we've watched so far. So we've got to get after this quarterback and see if we can take some timing away and protect our corners a little bit and not leave them out on an island like we did. Or we have been. We've been leaving them out on an island for a long time, and they've been playing decently, but we got to get more production out of them. When quarterbacks just throw balls up there, we got to come down with half of them.
BYU 1-7, San Jose State 1-7. You've lost 7 straight. They've lost 6 straight. So like last week, again, 2 desperate teams. Both have equal measures of motivation going into this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's we started growing the rally mustache last week and hoping that it would come out, but we're keeping it going, man. We gotta rip off 5 in a row here. We got 5 left, right?
Yeah.
We're definitely capable. We just got to put it together as a whole team, offensively, defensively, and on special teams.
In a team meeting like this morning's, is it just Kalani who speaks, or do other people have the floor? Or was it basically the coach to the team, and let's get after it?
So Kalani addresses the team after. We normally go over what we call the champions meeting, where we talk about guys who played. If you played this way, or the effort that you played with, as well as just your execution, we're able to win games with that. And so we call those guys winners. And so you list off the guys that played with basically winning effort, or you play this way you'll win, and then you list off the guys that are championship effort, or you play this way we'll win championships. And so you go through that, as well as the player of the game and scout player of the week, and positives and negatives on offense and defense, things you have to improve. And then so Ty normally goes first, and I'll go second, then Ed goes third with special teams, and then goes over to Kalani, and he'll address the team as a whole.
Okay. Who do you want to single out defensively for good efforts in Greenville?
There's a lot of guys that played well, that had winning efforts, guys that we thought, you play this way, we can win games. There's a couple of D-line. I know Kesney was one of them. Tuiaki and Corbin both had winning efforts. Butch did as well. In the secondary, there were both of the safeties. Yeah, both of the safeties.
Zane and Micah.
Zane and Micah. Yeah, all winning efforts. And then champions. Meti Taliauli was the only champion, and Fred Warren was player of the game, which is a champion.
Okay. And is that all just straight film analysis, or some live and some film, or how do you break it down that way?
It's all film analysis. It's more accurate. If it was live, probably wouldn't pick any winners and champions. But some great individual efforts. Some guys, Solo Wolfgram, who I thought was his best game that he's ever played as a Cougar, and I think that his best years are ahead of him. He's got 1 year left, but I'm excited about his growth, because it's just, all of a sudden something just clicks and he gets it, and playing really, really well. And so with his size and ability, he could end up being a really good player for us.
Okay, break time. Final segment with E is coming up, and with Coach Tuiaki, we'll have your questions from Twitter with the hashtag CCBYU. Defensive football, we're talking with Coach Tuiaki, and we'll take your questions next from Twitter, hashtag CCBYU. This is the Coordinator's Corner, live at JCW's in Provo. Back in a minute.
I'm Ned Sigmund.
Sports Network. Now let's rejoin the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
All right, Ty Detmer's coming up in 10 minutes. We'll talk about the offense in the final half hour of this show. First half hour is for D, and that's Coach Tuiaki, Elisa Tuiaki, defensive coordinator and defensive line coach for the Cougars. And this segment belongs to you, Cougar Nation. Social media, hashtag CCBYU. This one from @HousleyD, kind of a general question, E, but what specifically is in your defensive game plan to improve moving forward? And he says, go Cougs. Thank you for the Twitter question.
We've got to keep getting better at technique, but there'll be a couple of schematic changes. The one message that we don't want to send to the players is that you're not good enough, right? And so, we're thinking about just kind of moving a couple of guys around to put ourselves in position to be successful, but at the same time, just more schematic changes that are similar to what we're doing, but can be different to an offense. I think will help us out. Will protect us a little bit more on people trying to take shots on us, we have been blitzed all year. It just wasn't successful, and so we blitzed this last game as well. But we're maybe talking about changing some of the things that we do in the blitz game with coverage.
Which kind of answers the next question. @Tan Sperry tweeted in about the rarity of blitzing, and he says we're sometimes successful, but you talked about them just the last couple of games. Mississippi State, there was some blitzing. You did send at ECU. You'd like it to be more effective when they do go.
They've got a hit, and so the big play where we ended up batting the ball out on the goal line, that was a blitz, and so like I said, it's got to hit. Guys have got to take advantage of just finishing the sack and finishing the takeaway, and we've got to be better at that. And I don't think the answer is to keep blitzing more. I think the answer is just to be more calculated and maybe change a couple things, tweak some things, and play some coverages differently, to help out. Right now, the big plays is what's costing us on defense, and so decent in the run could be better, but I think that if we can take away some of those big passes, we'd be a lot better off. And so maybe change some things in coverage and protecting our corners a little bit better and giving the quarterback different looks, with adding blitzes to it.
So some of these guys might be obvious, but who are among the most maybe natural or innate or effective blitzers that you have on your team?
Fred, by far. Butch is really physical. Butch loves contact, and so that's a good thing sometimes. Sometimes you'd like a guy to have a little bit more wiggle, and so they all have their different strengths. But right now, Fred sticks out as a really good player. I mean, he did a good job.
It's Falcons last night by chance at all?
Did not.
Okay. You didn't get to coach Kyle Van Noy. He's somebody that was that kind of guy, and now that he's settled into a professional role, he's really standing out for the Pats and one of their best defenders right now. It's kind of fun to see. Yeah. From @Alamo Coug, what words of encouragement can you offer BYU fans who are stunned by the team's struggles this season?
I think it's the same thing for the players. We've got to stay the course. And stay the course and continue to just cheer and be there, for the team when they need you the most. The players, I don't think it's as bad as the coaches, but just be there for the players. I know a lot of people take shots at them on social media. I mean, just be there for them. And if you believe in Kalani and we're happy about him last year, then believe in him now, because he'll get us through this thing.
From @JKB1830, what's the downside to shaking things up a bit relative to either personnel or tactics moving forward here down the stretch?
The downside is that the kids have never done it before, and so you start to feel pretty comfortable about certain schemes that you're in and playing certain defenses. Then all of a sudden you do something new. Well, there's new on everything that you do, right? So if you're covering somebody from a different landmark or playing it a little bit differently, then sometimes you're making corrections on the fly, like, okay, well, I told you this, and it's true majority of the time, but in this case, you'd have to do this. And so, tweaking it to the nuances of everything that you see on offense, which is a lot, right? It's different formations, personnels, and spacing, and all that stuff comes into play. And ended up because they just miss a nuance of something. So.
Okay. At 1-7, what do you think are some things the defense has done well enough to maybe earn you a couple or more wins that haven't been there? Like, what do you feel relatively content about right now from the defensive side of the ball, effort-wise and performance-wise?
Yeah, effort's there, all the way to the end, and that's something that Coach Tuiaki always talks about. The PAT field goal block after, we're losing by a lot. So seeing the effort on that has been really good, and that's normally a place that you can gauge if kids are playing hard. And so there's definitely no question about effort. It's it's when you start losing games and you start stringing things together, you start to attribute things that probably aren't as important, or right, just everything just kind of looks gray after that. And so it's hard to make corrections and all that stuff, because it just seems like the whole world's coming down on you. But you just got to stick to what you know has worked, stick to what you know is correct, which are always principles, right? You work hard, you're loyal, honest, and you're dealing with your fellow men, doing all those things. Those things will always be correct and always bring you back to what you need to do right. And I really just forgot what the question was that you asked. But
well, it was more about what you can look to defensively and say, you know what, I feel like you've got a good foundation, or you're doing well enough to maybe have even seen more wins than you've got to this point.
We've got to get more takeaways, but I think we're playing sound, like we talked about before. We're playing sound, but we gotta be better with capitalizing on balls that are thrown up to us.
Making a play.
It really is what it is. I think we've been sound for the most part, and make a play, complete the takeaways, complete the sacks, and I think that it's a different ball game, and obviously you get a little bit of help on both sides of the ball. We give the offense more balls, and they have more opportunities to score, and then they score more. It's us off the field, as well as kind of changing the dynamic of the game when we haven't really been in a game where we can rush the passer. It's been, you got to play stout against the run, and you got to be weary of the run, and it just opens up stuff in the pass. They did a lot of play action, and they ended up taking some shots, which slows down the D-line, and you can't rush the quarterback. But if it's an obvious pass situation where you're not expecting quarterback run, or you get into 4-down territory, you could play a little bit more aggressive. But it's been on us, and we've got to get ourselves out of those situations.
Okay, last thing, you went on the road to play an offensive team last week that's better than San Jose State, who now comes to your place. They're averaging 16 points a game, turn it over a ton. What do you hope to take advantage of to get the win Saturday against the Spartans?
Got to get some takeaways, and we've got to keep them off the board. We've got to get some big plays that'll create takeaways, and we've got to just not let them score. I mean, they're averaging 16 points a game, and I think they've struggle a little bit more than other offenses that we've seen, and so I think that we can take advantage of that.
All right, E, good luck Saturday.
Thank you.
All right, that's Coach Tuiaki. Ty Detmer next on the Coordinator's Corner, live at JCW's here in Provo. Back after this.
For over 100 years, the skilled electricians of our
Let's head back to JCW's in Provo and the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
All right, so welcome back inside JCW's Coordinator's Corner, Mondays, 12 to 1. Two coordinators every week. First half hour tonight we had Coach Tuiaki, BYU's D coordinator, Ty Detmer, BYU's offensive coordinator and QB coach with us for the second half hour now. Ty, good to see you again.
You too.
We want to have these Mondays be a little more upbeat, of course. Take a win to get that, and you're on a string of losses right now. Whenever someone asks me how I'm doing, I answer, and then I have to give the second answer because I feel like I'm doing okay, but then, really in a way I'm not because things are kind of down. How are you doing right now?
Yeah, it's the same way. I mean, it's tough right now, but you come home and daughter still love you, wife still loves you, the dog still wags its tail. But the feelings just it's not where it should be. Around the office and even at home, probably not the same person you should be for them. So it's tough, but we're battling. We're not going to quit. And there's people out there who would love to probably see me resign at this point, but those are people that probably quit on their team in high school or whatever if they played. So there's no quit in any of the coaches. We've all been in situations like this before, and we're going to try to fight our way out and keep coaching and keep trying to build the program and keep going forward. So each week's a new week, and we're always optimistic going in, and that won't change this week.
Sounds like Kalani in his comments with the media this morning used the word aggressive as kind of a collective mindset heading down the stretch. How can that be reinforced on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, I think, just looking at it, we've probably gotten real conservative and been playing a little more not to lose the game, and that's not where we should be. And so talking with him and the other coaches feel like we need to go in with the mentality we're going to go win the game and maybe loosen it up a little bit for second down and not just go in figuring we're going to be able to run the ball on whoever we're matched up against. So that's kind of the mentality. We're still got to play smart, and we're not just going to throw caution to the wind and not just go play what they give us, but he wants to see us a little more aggressive, and I think towards the end of last game we got in a little bit more of a hurry up and throwing it, and got Tanner in a rhythm and made some good decisions, good throws, and so we need more of that, and I think I've probably had him playing a little tight, scared to turn it over and throw a pick, and so then you grip it a little tighter and hold it a little longer, and that's not the way you should play. So we want all the guys just going out playing loose, playing aggressive, and make plays when they're there. How
much can you relate that to you and your own playing style? You talk about gripping and not want to throw a pick, that kind of thing, because you were kind of not that way. You were let's throw it.
No, but in the NFL it got that way because as a backup you're on a short leash, and you feel that pressure that you're only going to get so many opportunities, and if you screw it up and force one in there, then the next guy may be in there. So in college it wasn't that way. Felt pretty secure, felt like you had the team around you that you could get away with it, especially my junior year. Senior year cut way down on the interceptions because I knew that we couldn't overcome those as easily with a young team. And so but in the NFL playing days, you always felt that pressure to just had to make the right decision every time.
Now, ECU, everybody had thrown it for a big number against them. They were very soft in terms of pass defense numbers-wise. You got to halftime with 61 passing yards on 12 attempts, but by the end of the game, you're 300-plus, and you've thrown it a ton of times, but most of it came late. Do you look back and go, maybe we should have thrown it more in the first half, come out a little more aggressive?
A little of both. I'd like to gotten a touchdown right before half there, and we probably mismanaged that a little bit with not getting a timeout and getting the right personnel in there and running the play we really wanted. But you go in 10-10 at half. We've been running it pretty well, especially that last series. And so, when you look back at the end, there were a lot of empty yards. Empty yards meaning they were playing kind of softer and a little more prevent type of defense, so there's more yards there. But
and game script said we're going to throw it more at that point.
Yeah, the situation of the game, we had to start throwing it to try to get some scores, and it was good to see though we had some guys step up and start making some plays, and Tanner loosening up and seeing it pretty good. So that's positives from the game that you can take away, and I think confidence our guys are building. You see Aleva Hifo with a big game again, really 2 weeks in a row. So we're starting to see some guys start to emerge and find ways to get them involved.
So if there were some hollow yards or empty yards, I can acknowledge that, but by the same token, passes completed and a playmaker making plays are things you want to capitalize on. We saw that from Tanner and saw it from Aleva, and you try and build on that.
Yeah, for sure. And Micah Simon, catching one going across the middle in the first half and breaking a tackle and getting in the end zone. You want to build on those. You want to give credit to the guys when they make those plays, just to continue to build that confidence and them to feel good about themselves. So yeah, it's good to get those those plays at the end of the game, but at the same time, as coaching staff, you don't put a bunch of stock into it, but it is good to see guys making individual efforts and individual plays.
ECU was allowing 50 points a game. You guys score 17. What were they doing differently against you, if they were, that they weren't doing against others, and why didn't that number get up to where you needed it or wanted it to be on Saturday?
Yeah, I think some of the teams they played were high tempo, run a lot of plays in a game. We're not quite that way, and so you see that the first half it's pretty tight. It's 10-10, and we shoot ourselves in the foot a little bit every now and then. And we false start, had some of the pre-snap penalties kind of set us back.
Or a throw you've got to make that's in quote-unquote easy throw that doesn't get made, or a catch doesn't get made. That happened a few times too.
Yeah, it's not so much what teams are doing to us. It's more a factor of what we're doing to ourselves at times. And so those are frustrating as coaches, because it's a matter of keeping a drive alive or staying ahead of the sticks and keeping yourself in 3rd and short. So we didn't do a great job of that on some of the drives, and they ended up taking it and marching it and having the ball quite a bit of the time as well. And so we dug ourselves out of holes at times and pinned them deep, and we got to be able to finish and take that next step and keep that drive alive and get down into either field goal range or score touchdowns.
Okay, the fact you've been playing a bit conservative is reflective in the fact that BYU is running fewer plays per game than anybody coming into the ECU game, high 50s. You ran mid-70s there. And some of it, again, is script, and you're behind, and you're a little more up-tempo. But could you see more tempo returning or coming to the BYU offense down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, every game's different. You want to kind of capitalize on what you did, but at the same time, it was the situation of the game that kind of brought that on. But that's always a component we have, and the ability to get into. We're not going to give away any game planning secrets, on a Monday. But, that's something that obviously your coaching staff you look at, but we jumped into it one time in the game and we go 3 and out and turn it right back over to them with a tired defense, and so that's not ideal either. So we've got to, if we do jump into it, we've got to be successful and get some first downs, and once you do that, it kind of snowball effect. It gets the defense now on their toes or their heels, and allows our defense then to get some needed rest, especially with the injuries we've had and the new guys in there playing and the lack of depth. So, part of that, conservative game plan was a little bit to do with what's going on the defensive side of the ball with the number of snaps they're playing and the lack of depth that they have as well. So it's a combination of things, but, I think at the end of the day we'll look at the up-tempo part of it and see if we can't get a little more of that going and have some more success in it.
No one's played more defensive snaps in the FBS than San Jose State. We'll see if the BYU offense can keep the Spartans on the field a long time here on Saturday. We'll come back after the break, talk a bit more about Aleva Hifo, what's led to his breakout as we continue. This is the Coordinator's Corner. I'm with Ty Detmer. We're at JCW's in Provo, and we're on BYU Radio, ESPN 960, and BYU Football Facebook Live. Back after this.
Picture this. You have a big change.
voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
All right, questions for Ty Detmer later on with the hashtag CCBYU on Twitter. CC for Coordinator's Corner. BYU and San Jose State coming up this Saturday at LaVell Edwards Stadium. BYU struggles to score it. San Jose struggles to score it. But the sense is, Ty, probably that this is a weekend for you guys to have to get better and show that you're maybe better than you've shown through 8 games offensively.
Yeah, I mean, it's been that week.
You've hoped that every week.
way every week. This is no different. We've got to go in and we've got to execute and play a full 4 quarters and finish drives is the big thing. That's kind of the mantra is we got to, when we get it out there and dig it out of our own end, we got to finish. We got to stay on course and can't let the little mistakes set us back. So it's it's a great week to be at home. We've been on the road, East Coast, really long trip, and it'd be nice to be at home for a full week, get our fans behind us, and hopefully they can hang in there. If you're a fan, you're a fan, and you cheer your team on, and you root for them, and you pull for them, and no matter what the situation is. So, we'll find out here pretty quickly who our real fans are and the ones that show up. So we're excited to be back at home, though, and playing here.
I mentioned before the break we talked about Aleva. So before the Mississippi State game, he was on around 20 catches for his career and around 5 yards per catch. So very much close to the line of scrimmage, not really busting much. Last 2 weeks, he breaks out. Big game at Mississippi State, and then 150 roughly at ECU. That's your first 100-yard receiver since you've been the offensive coordinator here at BYU. What has led to Aleva's breakout last 2 weeks and being less of a possession guy close to the line and more of a guy you're looking for downfield?
Yeah, when you watched his highlight film coming out of high school, and we were kind of finishing the recruiting process with him when we got here, that's the thing that stood out to me was how quickly he can get on a safety, getting down the field those first 10, 12 yards, and he gets to full speed pretty quick. So I was excited about that part of him. And then last year he kind of had to learn a little bit behind the Juergens brothers, and this year, we've been waiting to see that from him, and for Tanner to get confidence with him and feel good about him on a safety. And we've kind of gotten some of those looks, and now it leads to more looks. And one of the great things from the game that I saw was him on the field after a couple catches, just like, give me the ball some more, And I've been waiting for a guy to step up and say that, like, give me the ball, I'm going, I'll make it happen. And we need more of that, So it's that was exciting, even situation of the game to finally see him come out of his shell and feel confidence and feel like I can win on any route.
And then you guys were feeding him at that point. Then he gets a few in a row and he ends up with a big night.
Yeah, exactly. And it's him getting down the field and then making a few guys miss after a catch. He has that ability, and we've just been, like I said, he's kind of been in a shell. He's a quiet, shy type of kid that I hope that gives him the confidence now that he's got that the 2 weeks in a row that he can go out there and just play and be the guy that wants the ball every play.
ECU game kind of turns on 3 opportunities to score that don't go the way you want. One right before halftime, inside the 5, settle for a field goal. Second half, inside the 5, don't convert a 4th and 4, a 4th and goal from the 4, nothing on there, and then a field goal miss where it's make a bowl. And those are points that count in the tally that make it a different game by the end.
They do, especially going in at half. You'd like to punch one in there and get 7 on the board, and now we're up 14-10. Maybe change the complexion of their thinking, and instead it's tie ball game. Kind of allow them to still play kind of conservative, and be able to kind of run their game plan a little bit more. So that one hurt, and then the one we drive down in there, and you work so hard to get down there.
12 plays, 80 yards,
and we just kind of fizzled out. Got bad route combination over there, and then 4th down, they'd been blitzing everything, so we thought tunnel screen might happen, and the backer actually played it really tight, and they made a play on that one. So, but we had 3 other opportunities that, watching the film, we've got first down, I think, the throw we want, and we just didn't get it off and
ran out of bounds with it, I think.
Yeah, and it was a behind the line, so we're blocking the guy, and Tanner saw a flash of color and decided to hold it instead of trust that we would make that block, and so we missed that opportunity. So when you get down there, it's going to be tight, it's going to be tough, and and we just didn't make the plays when we needed to right there.
So that's all about, usually it's red zone opportunities we're talking about. Last year, one of your strengths was red zone scoring percentage. You were 4th nationally in red zone points. You're 108th right now. The TD percentage in the red zone was 60% last year, about 38% this year. Easy answer is Taysom Jamal. Is there anything else beyond that that leads to the big drop inside the 20 this year?
Yeah, I think it's just young guys figuring out that everything happens quicker. It's tighter, quicker. We got to be better versus man coverage. We got to make quicker, better decisions in the run game. It's a combination of all those things, and then to have 2 great players where Taysom could do a lot on the edge that Tanner's not as adverse to. So it's a situation where we got to pick up the slack from other areas, either our receivers being more sharp in their routes and being better in the pass game, and then being able to protect the edges and run the ball a little better down there.
Similar drops in 3rd down, 4th down conversion last year to this year, and I guess some of the answers are the same there too. But clearly, on 3rd and 4th downs last year, you had playmakers that really they were going to be the guys you could count on, and you're still trying to find maybe who might be those guys regularly.
Yeah, and that falls on us as coaches. We got to do a better job of putting some plays in place that we know our guys can execute and give them more opportunity. So that's been a change for us a little bit this year, and we obviously haven't done a very good job with that as coaches.
Is there a positive in that? A lot of the guys you've had to depend on are guys with a lot of time still left in the program.
Well, yes and no. I mean, we got to win now. We got to win some games, and so we're hoping though that these guys are getting great experience against some good competition that will translate to more wins down the road. But we're a pretty impatient profession. We need to make those now, and yes, it'll be good for later. But right now, it's tough watching it sometimes.
Nobody foresees 1-7. Now that you are where you are, how does that color what you expect for the next 5 and want for the next 5?
Well, we expect to be 6-7 in the next 5. That's what we want. That's what we expect. And now that doesn't just happen because that's what you expect. So we got to work harder. We got to detail things better as coaches. We got to, practice harder and be more demanding of the players that they actually understand it and do it right come game time. So it's like I said before, there's no quitting anybody. Nobody's laying down and just saying, okay, well, it wasn't our year. We're going to go fight to the very end, and our players are that way too. So we expect to be 6-7 and finish the season on a high note, but it's disappointing where we're at, and that's not the standard that's been set here, and we know that, and so we're going to battle to the end.
Twitter for Ty next. Hashtag #CCBYU. Your social media questions for BYU's OC and QB coach Ty Detmer as we continue from JCW's in Provo on the Coordinator's Corner on BYU Radio, ESPN 960, and BYU Football Facebook Live. Back after this.
Picture this. You have a big change coming up in your life and you need to move.
11:59. Thank you.
Coordinator's Corner, live on the new skin BYU Sports Network. Let's head back to JCW's in Provo and the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
All right, this segment belongs to Cougar Nation on the Coordinator's Corner. It's hashtag CCBYU from Twitter. Questions for BYU's OC Ty Detmer from @Tansperry. Hi, Ty. Which coaches or former players have you communicated with during difficult times? I still believe you can turn this around. That from @Tansperry on Twitter.
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of former players, guys I played with, have reached out. Coach Chow, he'll send me a message every now and then just to hang in there and stay after it. Coach Ken Schmidt, was at practice last week trying to give us a little boost, and Claude Bassett, former coach that recruited me from Texas, he checks in from time to time. So a lot of support from former players, teammates, and then even some of the coaches.
Question coming in that was actually for both E and you from @HousleyD. What specifically is in your offensive game plan to improve down the stretch?
Well, I think just, again, we're not going to give away trade secrets here or anything. Not that there's a lot to be secret about, but we just need to keep detailing and fine-tuning and not having plays that prevent us from keeping drives alive. We've got to stay on track. The little penalties and things like that. There's certain types of penalties that are effort penalties, where a block in the back from Micah Simon in the game, that obviously everybody sees it like, why would you do that? Well, everyone's pressing a little bit, trying to spring people, and you expect to have a holding call or something like that every now and then. But the false start and, the pre-snap penalties really, really hurt you, because it puts you now back in a situation that, we're not as dynamic as we need to be in order to overcome those. So we got to stay on schedule, stay on track, and keep ourselves in third and short, or create some opportunities down the field a little more.
You mentioned false start, and going back over the last 10 years of BYU football, as I've done recently, the most common infraction by far, no matter the season, the staff, whatever, it's always false start. And it's the one penalty unique in college football because it's one that doesn't involve any contact with anybody. It's all up here. And it's more than just saying it's up here. What have you found to be the best remedy for teams or units that false start? And is it just purely and always a concentration issue?
Well, I would bet that most teams, that's their highest penalty.
It's common.
Every team,
It's going to be false start or hold.
The defense, they shift, and our guy sees movement and thinks maybe he didn't hear the count, or they make a call, right? Kind of in that time when the quarterback's about ready to, and they're not supposed to make calls, when they shift and move, but it happens, and it's mental, but it's also, you can see it's usually guys on the edge of the line of scrimmage that are twitchy anyway, ready to go, knowing that people are ready for the pass rush. And
so there's a physical component to the mental
there
issue.
Is. Yeah. It's not just mental, like Pop Warner, I didn't know what the count was, or I missed the count. It's a lot of times, a twitch or a flinch from a D lineman or a backer that triggers them.
Gotcha. Ryan Washburn on Twitter. Ty, is Tanner Mangum still your best option, or will other quarterbacks get a chance get at decent minutes and see what they bring down the stretch?
Yeah, as long as Tanner's making the right reads and doing the right thing and taking care of the football, he'll be the guy. He gives us the best chance to win, we feel, right now. And if that doesn't happen and we start looking around and forcing it and not making good decisions, then we'll address it at that time. But right now, he's the best option for us to win the game, and the other guys are very inexperienced, and they're going to have some of their beginner mistakes. But if Tanner at some point proves that he can't do it and he's not running the offense like it should be run, then you move on and try to find the next guy. But I thought he played probably his best game for us this last week, and just as a quarterback coach, watching his eyes, seeing him go through the progression, checking it down when it needed to be, I thought that was probably one of his better games for us. So hope to build on that and continue to build it. And, he's got another year next year, so we'd love to see him continue to improve and just get more confidence with him making the right choices as we go.
A couple of good percentage games, though, for Tanner back-to-back. The numbers were certainly there this past week. You threw it a lot late. His first 300-yard game for you since you've been the OC. Two questions from Travis Mortensen. One we kind of hit. He wanted to know about Aleva Hifo's rise in play. We kind of touched that earlier. But his second question is, what did you see in the offense's performance versus ECU that makes you optimistic for a strong outing versus San Jose State?
Well, again, it's, we're close. You watch the film, and we're really close to being pretty good offensively and winning games, but, we're not close enough, obviously. We still have the little things, but I think seeing our receivers get into a rhythm, start making some plays there late in the game gives you excitement and know that they've got more confidence and are feeling pretty good about themselves. So we need more of that.
Craig Hershey on Twitter for Ty, #CCBYU. Why do you coach from the sidelines and not the booth?
Yeah, I've thought about moving up to the booth where you can see things a little better and things are a little calmer up there. But, there's times where you want to jump in to hurry up and you want to be able to signal it right away, or personnel things, or call Tanner over during a timeout, hey, don't forget to look at this, or during an injury timeout, something like that. So I've kind of gone back and forth here lately, wondering if it would be better to be up there and see things a little better. But then there's that component of being on the sideline and being able to tweak and change things on the fly that I still.
Is that the stronger pull? Do you think you might go up in the booth and try it one time this year? Or?
I don't know. I thought about it even going up there this week, but if you're trying to go hurry up and do some of those things, like I said, there at the end of the game, it was nice to be on the sideline and just signal it in and be able to go fast and not have to radio it down and then try to get it relayed and make sure that you get exactly what you want.
Well, we hope that BYU gets what it wants offensively, defensively, in every way Saturday against San Jose State. That's going to do it for today's Coordinator's Corner. Our thanks to Ty Detmer for the second half hour, Coach Tuiaki in half hour number 1. We're live with you every Monday from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock right here at JCW's in Provo for the Coordinator's Corner on BYU Radio, ESPN 960, and BYU Football Facebook Live. So until next Monday, for Ty and E, I'm Greg Wrubell saying so long, Cougar Nation. Talk to you next week.